Hi, and welcome to Mrs. PM Reads, where we are continuing in the Magic Circle by Katherine Neville. Let me rearrange that. Okay, so in our last video, this is going to be brief because I was kind of lost in that. There were so many hard names to pronounce. It was mostly about Greek and Roman mythology and the gods and power and energy and how Hitler kind of believed all of that worked together to his benefit. We are still in the section that is titled Mr. Brown, and here we go. When Zoe's eclectic romp through 2 millennia ended, she told us how these 1,000-year Reichs were woven together. Hitler, from an early age, attended boys' school at the Benedictine monastery at Lambach. As a choir boy there, he claimed he'd intoxicated himself with the solemn splendor of the brilliant church festivals and aspired to become a black monk, as the Benedictines were called, it says. This recalled Virgilio's comment on Saint Bernard, patron of the Templars, who'd single-handedly made the flagging Benedictine order the most powerful in Europe. According to Zoe, Benedict, a contemporary of King Arthur and Attila the Hun, built 13 monasteries, all located at or near important pagan religious sites. 12 were outside Rome at Subiaco, within spitting distance of the ruins of the Emperor Nero's palace, facing the sacred Specco, a famous oracular cave where Benedict himself spent several years as a hermit. When some monks of neighboring orders tried to poison the meddlesome Benedict, who was bent upon purifying them, he broke camp and relocated to the site of the ancient city of Casinum, between Rome and Naples, where he built his now legendary 13th monastery, Monte Cassino. At the height of World War II, when the Allies landed at Naples just after the fall of the Mussolini government, the Germans spent 6 months defending Monte Cassino in one of the longest pitched battles of the war. Allied bombing raids reduced the mountain to rubble, yet the German army, though they'd removed the monastery's many treasures and archives to safety, fought on amid the broken stones in a desperate attempt to hold on to the mountain. By order of Hitler himself, Monte Cassino was defended fanatically, said Zoe, just as he wished to seize Mount Pamir in Central Asia in his invasion of Russia. Hitler was assured by his dowsers and geomantic scientists that Monte Cassino in Italy was one of the key points on a massive power grid girdling the earth. Yes, it's what I was telling Ariel about only last night, Wolfgang said. It seems these places are all connected with the coming Aeon and Hitler's actions as well. Indeed, Zoe agreed. An important event confirms it. Since Lucky's horoscope foretold he could only be destroyed by his own hand, he was known among his intimates as the man who couldn't be killed. The last attempt on his life at his Wolf's Lair headquarters on July 20th, 1944, was led by Klaus Schenk von Stauffenberg, a handsome war hero, an aristocrat, and mystic. Because his name connects symbolically to the coming age, Schenk means cupbearer and Stoff means tankard. Stauffenberg was regarded by many as the coming Führer, who would usher in the age by destroying the great adversary. Of further importance was that, like Wotan, Stauffenberg had lost, or perhaps given, one of his eyes in the war. But once again, Lucky lived up to his nickname, Zoe added. Later, when he took his own life, he underwent cyanide, a bullet, and the flame, symbolic too. The Celtic triple death, like die Götterdämmerung. That's a pretty glamorous description for a guy who was your basic homicidal maniac, I pointed out. Just take a look at the actual deaths of Mussolini and Hitler. The first was hung up in the town square like a stuffed sausage, while the other got cremated with a can of gasoline. I'd hardly describe those as heroic or noble ways to die, much less a twilight of the gods. Not to mention how many millions of people Hitler wiped out before himself in the Holocaust. Do you know the meaning of the word Holocaust? Zoe asked. Holo kostos, Wolfgang said. It means totally burned, yes? In Greek, if an animal offering was thought a good sacrifice, they called it completely consumed by fire. It meant the gods had accepted everything that was sent to them. For the Greeks, though, this was more of a thanks offering for gifts already received, where for the Semites, the things were expiation of the past sins of the tribe. What in God's name were they saying? I reminded myself I was related to both of these individuals who were sitting here chatting so calmly, even blithely, about the world's largest scale mass murder as if it were some atavistic religious rite. Wasn't it enough to suggest that Hitler had arranged to have himself torched like a marshmallow? That he undertook a pagan ritual involving 6 children, a dog, and a handful of miscellaneous friends in an underground bunker on Walpurgisnacht? Just so in death he'd resemble some self-sacrificial Teutonic hero? Wow. Was that sufficiently, not a question, that was sufficiently disgusting. But if I understood correctly, what they were now implying was even worse. You can't be serious, I said. Surely you're not saying Hitler's death was part of some god-awful rite involving slaughter on a massive scale, trying to purify the earth and everybody's bloodlines because of some prophecy about an avatar of a new age? It's a bit more complex than that, Zoe informed me. When you arrived, I said I'd explained the Magnus missing from the Do Magos. Some think it's Balthazar who brought the gift of bitter myrrh for tears of repentance. But in fact, it was Caspar, whose gift was incense, an offering of sacrifice. Like Caspar Hauser's death, I said, recalling Wolfgang's tale on our drive to the monastery of Melk. Have you ever visited Caspar Hauser's grave at Ansbach? Zoe asked. It's a small stone-walled cemetery filled with flowers. To the left of his grave is a tombstone that reads Morgenstern, in German, morning star, the 5-pointed star of Venus. The stone to the right is Gerig, spear bearer, or the celestial centaur Sagittarius, from the old High German word ger, spear. Coincidence? More likely a message. Message, I said. The centaur sacrificed his life to trade places with Prometheus in Hades, she said. He's still associated with the Sufis and the Eastern mystical schools. The five-pointed star of Venus was the symbol of sacrifice required for initiation into the Pythagorean mysteries. I think the message to be read at Caspar Hauser's grave is that the turn of each age, sacrifices must be made, willingly or unwillingly. Zoe smiled strangely, her cold aquamarine eyes looking through me. There was such a sacrifice in our story. The death of Lucky's niece, his sister Angela's child, perhaps the only woman Lucky ever wholly loved. She was an opera student like Pandora and might have become a fine singer, but she shot herself with Lucky's revolver, though the reason was never adequately explained. Her name was Gelly Rabal, short for Angeli, little angel, from Angelos, messenger. So you see, as in the case of Caspar Hauser, it may have been the symbolic messenger who died for what others were seeking. Classic, don't shoot the messenger as they deliver some news. I don't know. Okay, what were they seeking? I asked. The knowledge of the eternal return. Pandora's magical circle, Zoe said. It is quite simply the power of life after death. And we'll stop there. That's the end of this section. Oh boy. All right. Again, historical fiction. So if you're interested in figuring out which is fact and which is fiction, go ahead and search it out on the internet. Hopefully you'll find some facts versus fiction there, because I'm not familiar with any of this stuff at this point. All right, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.